Hey folks, thank you for logging in for another virtual town hall with us. Unfortunately, we're still making our way through this pandemic and we are entering into hurricane season here on the Gulf Coast. Experts predict that this is going to be an active hurricane season, so everybody please make sure that you have your supplies, have bottled water and batteries, all of the necessary supplies in the event of a hurricane. Remember, as our waters and our climate continue to get warmer, the quicker these storms can pop up. And so it's critical that you have supplies so that when a storm does pop up, you are prepared. We all know how the store shelves have been cleared off with toilet paper for months, and lately they've done a great job at stocking back up, but now is the time for you to stock up on water and other household supplies to make sure that you can take care of your family. We got lucky with our last hurricane season. Tropical Storm Imelda did impact our coast. Specifically, the area around the San Jacinto River was greatly impacted. However, in terms of catastrophic storms, we did get pretty lucky last season. So I'm a little nervous, so everyone be sure that you are prepared. For this month's town hall, I'll be talking about the 3 areas in the Houston region that we are actively working on. First, I'm going to talk about the cancer cluster in Houston's historical 5th Ward. Then I will be talking about Jones Road Superfund site and some new information that we have there from the Environmental Protection Agency. And last, I'll be talking about one of our largest and longest running programs, the San Jacinto River Coalition, and the latest with the San Jacinto River waste pits. For some time now, community members of Houston's historical 5th Ward felt like there were abnormal rates of cancer and other disease in their community. Stories of community members suffering from and ultimately dying from lung cancer who've never smoked. Stories like this are not uncommon at all in their community. And it came to light in recent years that Union Pacific, one of the industrial facilities in the community, had in fact contaminated the groundwater beneath much of the community. Now, what the great concern there is, even though now folks are on city water, the great concern, one, is that historically people have been on groundwater wells. And then second is that this type of contaminant not only sinks deeper into the aquifer and puts our groundwater at risk, but it also releases vapors that can migrate up through this subsurface and can impact the people who are living, working, or recreating on the land above. The local government and experts in the field are currently looking into what the routes of exposure have been over time. Are there any? And if so, are there still routes of exposure going on today? I know many community members feel that there are. Time and time again, with these types of issues, we have community members, like I once was, who know in their heart, who know in their gut, deep down in their soul, what's really been done to their community. Now, being able to put 2 and 2 together, being able to prove these types of things is a whole other story. What the community received, though, most recently is undeniable data by Department of State Health Services. So I am appreciative of the efforts that the state has taken and the data that the community has been given. However, I have great concerns that the community is being given just enough, but not the entire picture. So we're working with the residents there to see that they are in fact being led through this process in a way that they can understand what they're really being given. For example, recently released publicly has a very limited window that they're actually looking at cancer data for the community. To elaborate a little more, the Texas Cancer Registry has available data on cancer diagnoses from 1995 to 2017. However, our state health department only pulled data for this community from the years 2000 to 2016. They also only pulled data for the community for people who were diagnosed with cancer above the age of 20. Children have to be looked at. We already have such a limited window of data available in the Texas Cancer Registry. It's essential that we're looking at all of it. And the children. Our children are lower to the ground. They also respirate at a rate much higher than adults. and it's more difficult to make excuses for children when it comes to the disease or cancer that they may develop. It's easy, to make an excuse for an adult who develops cancer, right? We could say, well, they moved around a lot, they might have worked in industry, they might smoke or have lifestyles or habits that could contribute to ultimately them developing a disease. But children, you can't make these same type of excuses for. And so we're working with the community to see that they're not duped, to see that they are in fact getting the best, most accurate, most relevant and true data that they possibly can. So I look forward to working with them and helping navigate the community through this process. As y'all know, this is something we went through with Texas Department of State Health Services when it comes to the cancer rates around the San Jacinto River. Looking at the data that the community has been presented with, I find it incredibly alarming. Not only do they have numerous types of cancer and what would be considered in a statistic world, statistically significantly high or significantly increased compared to someone living elsewhere in a comparable community in the state of Texas, they also have an enormous amount of cancer that's sometimes over twice as great as what you would expect to see. This isn't okay. So I look forward to being able to work with the community and help them continue to navigate this complex process. As with all of the communities that we work with, we are asking members of the community of Fifth Ward to visit our website and fill out the health questionnaire that we host on our website. This will help us get that much closer to the true picture of what's really been going on in their community with their health. Why this is so important is because the Texas Cancer Registry doesn't work like you'd think it would. You cannot go into the registry and pull all types of cancer for a geographic area. The state health department is limited, and they can only go into this registry and pull specific types of cancer for a specific time period for a specific geographic area. So these are three great limitations. So what could go unlooked at is great. Not to mention that they're not accounting for lupus or other autoimmune diseases or some of the other respiratory issues that can be rampant in some of our communities. So it's very important that if you are a member of one of these communities, Fifth Ward or other communities that we work with, that you visit our website and fill out this health data. I assure you this is something that we keep confidential at THEA. We handle it very sensitively, and we only hand it over to agencies or partners in a generic form where we are accounting for you as a human being and someone who has a specific disease or illness. We're not handing out your specific or sensitive information like your address or any other details. So I ask that you trust us with your personal information so that we can truly help to get to the bottom of what this picture looks like for the community. All right, folks, let's hop to the other side of Harris County. Let's go to Northwest Harris County, where we have the Jones Road Groundwater Plume Superfund site. The Environmental Protection Agency was planning on hosting a public meeting this summer for that Superfund site located in Cypress. However, due to the current pandemic and times, they're unable to host an in-person presentation. Luckily, they did send me their PowerPoint. So I've gone through the PowerPoint and wanted to point out some concerns I have to you. The other item that they sent me, which hopefully you're on their mailing list and hopefully you've received this via snail mail, is this updated fact sheet for the site. I went ahead and printed this. I haven't received it by mail yet. I'm checking every day, but I went ahead and printed this fact sheet. I am not seeing this or the PowerPoint on the agency's website. So at a later date, I will be going through the presentation in full with you, but there are some questions that I have based off what the agency sent me that I would like to have answers to before I give you a presentation specifically for the Jones Road Superfund site with this information from the EPA. They're reporting on groundwater sampling that took place earlier this year in January and February. And they tested a variety of locations of the monitoring wells, and the contaminants of concern that they list, which are the contaminants of concern for this Superfund site, are tetrachloroethylene, often referred to as PERC or PCE, trichloroethylene, and then dichloroethylene and vinyl chloride. Now, vinyl chloride is that final product that the original contaminant that was dumped, which is PERC. Vinyl chloride is the final product that PERC breaks down to. Now, some people might say, oh, well, you know, it's breaking down, nature's running its course, it's taking care of it. Wrong. That's not how this works. This stuff gets more toxic as it degrades. Vinyl chloride is as toxic, if not more toxic, than the original product that was dumped. So this is not something that we need to watch degrade. This is something that absolutely has to be getting cleaned up. So I'm a little concerned about how the agency reported the data in the PowerPoint. I've inquired for more information, and I will get back with you on all of this. However, what they have reported is a few high spots that they found in the shallower groundwater and the deeper groundwater bearing zones beneath the shopping center that was the original location where the dry cleaner dumped their product out in the alleyway and down the drain. So the agency is finding elevated levels of PERC in that immediate area. They then also went to the west of that facility, of that location, and tested groundwater. And they have reported several hits in the groundwater system that's, again, under people's homes. Many of these homes are supplied by groundwater. I mean, literally over half of the neighborhood that this plume sits below is supplied by groundwater. So this is concerning for so many reasons. And they did get some hits of PERC that are above what the federal government classifies as safe to be in someone's drinking water. And not only is there concern here for a route of exposure to be the drinking water that individual well owners are pulling into their homes, but also that these contaminants can release as gases over time. And just like what they see in Fifth Ward, although they're different chemicals, they can as well release as gases that come up through the subsurface and can release into the air around someone's property, but they can also make their way up through the cement slabs and into the homes. And so I'm really concerned about this. However, what I'm seeing in the presentation is that the EPA is only reporting in their presentation the data for PERC, only reporting here the information for that original contaminant of concern that was dumped back from 1988 to the early 2000s. So I want to see more of the data. I want to be able to present you guys with complete data sets. You know, this stuff does break down slowly over time. So if we're looking for something that began to be dumped in the ground in this area in 1988, we would expect that there would be some degradation over time. So we need to see the numbers, we need to see the data for all of the products that this chemical is known to transform into over time, not just that original chemical. So that's something that I'm seeking out right now that I want to get back with all of you about. And as I mentioned, we're continuing to go through the Freedom of Information Act process for this Superfund site so that we can look at all data sets since the inception of testing from this Superfund site. So stay tuned, more to come. I'm extremely thankful for this update from the agency. However, it seems like this is a theme in the work that we do, that the more information we receive or the more that we know, the less we really truly know and the less we really truly understand. So we are piling our way through the information and doing our best to make sure that we have a concise understanding of what this contamination looks like today. The last thing that I will mention about the Jones Road groundwater plume is that the EPA did groundwater well testing previously in multiple rounds, and they have most recently reopened the program to test individual homes in the neighborhood that's above this contaminated plume, and they are going to test at no expense to the homeowner for the contaminants of concern. So if you are interested in having your private groundwater well tested and you are within the red line on the map, please contact me. I'll get you to the agency, to the right folks, or contact Raji or Jason, whose information is on the screen, so that you can make sure that your groundwater well can be tested accurately by the agency to see if your groundwater well specifically has been impacted by these contaminants. Now for the portion of the town hall that focuses on our efforts and the ongoing efforts at the San Jacinto River Waste Pits. For about 7 years now, we have hosted monthly meetings in the communities around the San Jacinto River Waste Pits. And I have to admit, I miss seeing all of your faces. I miss being there, being able to hug you all, see how you're doing. These are relationships that we've built and maintained and grown over many years, and so I hope that all of you are doing well, and I definitely miss being able to be out there with y'all. We don't know when we will be able to get back to our in-person meetings. For the foreseeable future, we are going to be doing these virtual town halls, so please bear with us during these times, but I assure you, with San Jac and all of our sites, we're continuing to plug away at trying to make sure that you guys have the clearest picture of what's going on, as well as moving in the right direction. Now for San Jac, we certainly are continuing to move in the right direction. I am waiting anxiously for the EPA to let me know that they have received the 30% design report for the northern impoundments from the responsible parties contractors. GHD is the company, and so we're waiting on that. In my opinion, we're waiting on that. I haven't heard that the agency has received it, and so that's something we've really been looking forward to, so that we can see what direction the agency thinks that remediation is going to go. When the record of decision was signed by Administrator Pruitt, the understanding by the federal government was that the waste pits was 12 to 14 feet deep. Now, if you ask most of our community members, most of them did not believe that. And come to find out in this pre-design investigation is that, in fact, in some areas, the waste is over 24 feet deep. So we now fully understand the extent and depth of this contamination and how deep it has migrated over time. And so now we're looking at how this is mounting the complexity for remediation. It's one thing to put in cofferdams, and on one side you have, say, 14 feet of river on that side of the cofferdam, and then on this side of the cofferdam you have contaminated material that you are excavating out and removing. So what you wind up with in part of that process is you still have the river water, on one side of that cofferdam. And then once you excavate that material within the cofferdam, it's hollow, and you have to continue working until you get all of the last of the contamination down to 30 parts per trillion within that cofferdam. And so the hydrostatic pressure and the wave action, just the complexity of trying to hold back 14 feet of water with a cofferdam, and you have construction workers on the inside trying their best to get the rest of the material out of there. That's a safety issue, not only for the workers, but also for the river. It's complex. So now getting to where we now understand that depth is twice as deep. That depth is not 12 to 14 feet of dead space on the inside once the waste is removed. You're looking at 24, 25 feet. And so, like I said, the complexity here is just mounting. And so I'm really looking forward to being able to go through these reports and see what direction the agency and the responsible parties consultants think that this is going to go. If we receive the report before next month's town hall, we will host an emergency update, and we will email you and we will call you and make sure that you are aware that we have the information ready to present to you. I would like to take a moment to thank our community members who are our active eagle eyes around the San Jacinto. We can't always be there with our boots on the ground, and now more than ever, it's so important for us to be hearing from you and being in the know about what's going on the ground in the community, and to help you guys navigate through that. It's very normal for me to receive phone calls, messages, emails about environmental issues or issues on the San Jacinto, and folks really don't know who they can direct their concerns to, who they can report an industrial fire to and get the adequate response that's truly needed. So a lot of times folks come to me, and what we find is that agencies are doing this. They're pointing it at one another. And so after Tropical Storm Imelda last year, the U.S. Coast Guard put a stipulation on the navigable waterway from just north of the waste pits down to Southwest Shipyards. And the largest noticeable restriction was that fleets could not operate on the navigable waterway from sundown to sun up. And in recent weeks, I've been receiving phone calls from community members saying 1 a.m., 2 a.m., we're hearing barges, cranking down the river, going towards the interstate. And so fortunately, TxDOT actually put me in contact with a chief in the U.S. Coast Guard, and she informed me that the original order has been amended. And so now, because the bridge repairs are complete, the U.S. Coast Guard amended this order, and vessels are allowed to travel under Interstate 10 around the clock. Now, the part of the order that is still in place is that vessels can only travel under Interstate 10 one at a time. They cannot have two tugs and two vessels trying to get under there at the same time. And then they also have to have a specific type of tie-up from the tugboat to the vessel that the tugboat is navigating. So if you hear traffic on the San Jacinto late at night, I know that it's a nuisance for y'all to be disturbed by these sounds while you're attempting to sleep, but it is no longer in violation of the order. So I wanted to give you guys that update. However, please continue, bringing this information to me as you have it, and I will do my best to navigate it to the correct agency and see that the concerns of the communities continue to be addressed. During the pandemic, I have received countless inquiries about dredging within the Army Corps of Engineers area of concern for the San Jacinto River waste pits. And most of these activities, once I've looked into them, I'm actually not finding permits. Some of them have permits, but the bulk of what's been reported to me, the activity that our community members are seeing, I'm not finding permits for. So some of these issues we are continuing to look into. We're continuing to communicate with our agencies, but please do continue to bring this information to us, because there certainly needs to be a process of checks and balance in place when we're talking about dredging the material in the bottom of the San Jacinto River near the San Jacinto River waste pits. So we need the due diligence to be done at a minimum that is required by the Army Corps of Engineers if these efforts were to be done under a permit. So please continue to bring that information to me. And lastly, if we were meeting in place this month, we would have hard copy SUPERFUND news to hand out to everyone. And I know those of you who attend our meetings regular are familiar with this periodical that's produced. And it's the same entity that produces the Star Courier and the North Channel Star. And the Superfund news was produced monthly, and now it is a periodical. And so the latest issue is out right now. And so you can go to the link below to get the latest copy. And so they work on making sure that a variety of topics are covered and folks are updated on when it comes to all things San Jacinto River waste pits. In closing, I just want to remind all of you that our work is made possible not only by our funders, but it is made possible truly by the community members who trust us to be their advocate and trust us to be their voice. So I encourage all of you, no matter which part of the Houston region you're in, no matter which site specifically you're concerned about that might be in your backyard, I encourage you to continue engaging with us. Our team is working every day to make sure that not only our communities are protected, but that some of the measures and processes in place continue moving forward through these complex times. I hope that you are well, and I really look forward to being able to get back out in the community, give you all hugs, and see how you all are doing. Please feel free to call us, email us, or contact us on our social media.